use it. Curry, way downtown. Bang! Bang! Oh, what a shot from Curry!
Davis. Oh, my God! Davis is going to run it all the way back. Auburn's going to win the football game. Auburn's going to win the football game.
Welcome back to week 2 of the podcast. We're here. What a successful week 1. Football was so good this weekend. I'm happy that more is upcoming. Let's get straight into the week 2 schedule. Looking at the week 2 schedule here, we start off with our big news segment. We got football just being back this weekend. Full slate of football. And are the 49ers healthy and all back onto the team? We'll see. Then we got a quick baseball review, which will look through the standings again, seeing if there's any differences and what it will look like heading into that fall season here. Then we'll go to Arizona sports. We'll start off with the Diamondbacks. Then we'll look and see if Arizona State football is back. And then the Arizona Cardinals, week 1 is ahead of us. Then we got Thursday night football. And then we will review in the upcoming first week 2 game of the Bills versus Dolphins on Thursday night football. And then we'll go into the NFL segment where we'll preview each game for week 1. Oh, I can't wait that football and professional football is here. And then we'll head into that college football section where we'll look at the big upsets and review of week 1 and then what to expect here in week 2 of college football. I'm so excited to be back. Let's get straight into these big news. First, this is a full weekend of football. We haven't had this in 200 and something days. We got Thursday night football the day before this podcast. Pretty sure we got some college football, but if not, we got high school football Friday night, college football Saturday, NFL, full slate of NFL on Sunday, and then we got Monday night football. So we got this full weekend and Monday to look forward to. I can't believe it, but football season is officially back. It's so exciting. Now let's get into some football news. Right before this podcast was released last week, Brandon Ayuk got his new contract. I am very surprised that he did not get traded. But hey, if you're a 49ers fan, if you're a fantasy fan, this is huge news because this offense is amazing. Adding Brandon Ayuk, they just get better. This offense is fully powered, and you know why? Because they also extended Trent Williams, the best left tackle in the league, the only offensive lineman to get a 99 overall in Madden. This offensive line needed him. He's a leader. He'll make a group of average guys play better than they needed. Trent Williams is an amazing player. And with that, are the 49ers at full strength? I mean, yes, Ricky Pearsall did get shot. All prayers up to Ricky Pearsall. He was already lifting weights and back to practice. I can't believe Godspeed. Just insane how fast he got back into the facility after getting shot straight through the chest. Fortunately, missing all vital organs. It's amazing that he's back. And this 49ers team might be Super Bowl favorites. Now that this team's completely back, we'll see. That's really it for the big news this week. I mean, there's not much that happened. It's just the anticipation of football here. Kind of like last week, we're just seeing who's not there, who is there. I don't really want to go over the Hassan Reddick situation. It's so weird. It's so abnormal. Got traded to the Jets and then hasn't showed up except for a week or before preseason press conference. He's the only one not in the building. Every other NFL team's ready. Niners were the big one we were scared of, and they got both their guys signed. Money has been surrounded by the NFL. I'm pretty sure it's $1 billion has been sent now to former Alabama players. Incredible school. Nick Saban's an incredible coach, and now we see his players getting paid the most by any college in the NFL. Insane. Nothing really else to put into the NFL news. Let's get straight onto this quick, easy baseball review. As we pull up this MLB review, we can see that the Baltimore Orioles are now on top of the American League, 81-60, above the Yankees by half of a game. Then we go to the AL Central where we got the Guardians leading, and then you got Twins and Royals neck and neck. All these teams in the AL or American League look like they're locked in. You got the Astros leading the West here at 75, 65, 96 playoff percentage. The Royals, the lowest team with an 85.1% playoff chance. So it looks like the American side of the playoffs is kind of set here. So we go into the National League. We start in the East. We got the Phillies, who look like the best team in baseball. They were struggling for a little bit, but I think overall this is the best team in baseball. They don't got the best record, but I do believe that this is the best team in baseball. You got the Braves trying to fight for that playoff spot. I do think they'll make it with a 74.3% chance to make it. Heading to the Central, the Milwaukee Brewers still got everything locked up there with the 99.7% chance making it into the playoffs. And then you head to the toughest division in baseball, the NL West, where you look at the leading Dodgers. They just beat the Diamondbacks in a 3-1 series, which we'll get more into later. Tough as a Diamondbacks fan, but the Dodgers are technically the best team in baseball with the best record. I do think going into the playoffs, the Phillies will be considered the best team in baseball. They might have the best record by then, but I do really like the Phillies more than the Dodgers, but we'll see. They got the Padres and Diamondbacks switching spots, but they're going to be interchangeable throughout the whole season. Both, I think, will make it pretty easily. And I think this page kind of just shows, I think I talked about last week, I think this page really is the playoffs heading into the MLB postseason. This is what the playoffs will look like. I don't think that much will change unless we see a team go on a big losing streak. So I think what you're looking at here is what you're going to be looking at in October. Talking about the Diamondbacks, let's look at how that last week went that we previewed in the last podcast. That Dodgers series did not go the way I said. I really, really wanted us to go 3-1, and we went 1-3. Big upset for the Diamondbacks fans. I mean, we were the underdogs going into it, but at home, you were really hoping to do something. You lose the first game barely by 1 run, the second game by 2 runs, and then you blow them out in the third game. I think that was really just like a pissed off Diamondbacks team with fought pitching. And then you get destroyed in the fourth game, 11-6. So, I'm not too mad about the first two. The fourth is very disappointing. But, the first two, you got to pull out one of those two and make it a 2-2 series. And we didn't. I was really hoping we were going to pull out that first game because I think it changes the whole series from there. But we couldn't. And it sucks. And then we come into this San Francisco series saying we need a sweep if we want to prove that we're still one of the best teams in baseball. Looks like we were going to do it. And then we lose early this morning, Thursday morning, we lose 3-2. So not the greatest scene, but, as a Diamondbacks fan, I'm not too mad at seeing this. We went 3-4 in the last 7 games. Not great when you're a playoff team, but also not terrible when you're looking at who you played in the Dodgers going 1-3. It's not what you want, but it's not terrible considering they're the Dodgers. And then 2 out of 3 in San Francisco at San Francisco. I guess I can't complain. Would have rathered the sweep, but you can't complain with 2 out of 3. Other than that, there's not much to look back into last week. It was pretty disappointing, very disappointing if you're a Diamondbacks fan. Going into the playoffs, I'm hoping we can turn some things around here in September. Heading on, we got a quite easy schedule here from the 6th of September to the 12th. We only got 5 games, so I think we have 2 rest days on Monday and Thursday. So that's nice if you're a Diamondbacks team that is, injured currently. We see Walker back. I think Marte's still working, and, Moreno's still working to come back. We saw Jordan Montgomery out of the bullpen get a little bit hurt in that Dodgers series, so we're hoping he comes back healthy. Yes, he's not a starter, which we all hoped, but he was doing good in the bullpen in that Dodgers game when he first came in. So let's hope we can get all healthy throughout. Hopefully by next podcast, we will be fully healthy. Hopefully we'll see Marte back. We'll see Christian Walker back. We'll see Moreno back. That's the big hope because these are huge series coming up. You see one game on ESPN on Sunday Night Baseball. We got Houston Astros 3 games where you get Fott, Rodriguez, and Nelson pitching. Honestly, I really like Nelson right now, and I'm glad he's our ESPN game because honestly, he's been one of our best pitchers right now. Surprisingly, he's the only one I can trust right now. He goes out there and performs. But Gallen starting that Texas series at home, he had a really good showing. I think he had 0 hits through 6 innings with like 6 to 8 strikeouts or something like that in his last performance. So I'm really happy to see him at home against Texas, a little rematch of that World Series. So, like I said, slight 3-game series in Houston and then a 2-game Texas series at home. I'm really hoping for 2 sweeps, but being more realistic after that, I'm really hoping we take 2 out of 3 at Houston. 1 out of 2 would be worst case scenario in 0-3. Now you're really wondering, are we a playoff team if we go 0-3? Realistically and hopefully, I'm hoping for 2-1. 3-0 against Houston would be amazing, but I mean, after that Dodgers series, I can't see that happening. And then coming off that San Francisco series, not sweeping them, I don't think we could sweep the Astros in their house. Hopefully we get an ESPN win to just show the majority of the population that just casually watches baseball. They might see that game, and hopefully the Diamondbacks are fully healthy by that game. Hopefully Marte and Walker are back that game. I don't know how long Moreno's out, but I'm pretty sure Walker and Marte are the closer ones to being back. Hopefully they're back by that ESPN game. And then that Texas series at home, honestly, as a Diamondbacks fan and how Texas is doing, if we don't win both those games, I have no hope for the playoffs at all. We need both those games. Gallen and Kelly are 2 aces heading into the playoffs in Diamondbacks' eyes. Gallen hasn't looked like an ace, but then in his last performance he did. Kelly's been injured all year but has done pretty decent. We need those 2 wins badly. Other than that, not much left to talk about the Diamondbacks. Pretty disappointed in them. I'm not very enthusiastic about this segment because of how bad they did do in these last games. I'm being pretty harsh. It was the Dodgers team, and then we did win the series against San Francisco. But doing as well as we have since the All-Star break, the best team since the All-Star break, not winning the series against the Dodgers and not sweeping San Francisco is something that's going to upset you as a Diamondbacks fan. Now, let's get into a better mood because we get to talk about Arizona State football. Oh my God, you don't know how happy I am to finally see a score of 48-7. Really, it should have been 48-0, but they got a crap time, trash time, 2 seconds left in the game touchdown. It's whatever. I don't blame the Sun Devils for that. I mean, you got your third stringers in that point on defense, and they scored where they, had a, I think it was a 3rd down or something they scored on because they couldn't get in the end zone the 1st or 2nd down, and they had to call timeouts to even get into the end zone. Anyways, looking at 1st, 2nd, and 3rd quarter, dominant, absolutely dominant. I get this is a Wyoming team. They're not an FCS team, so this is still really impressive. This is an FBS Division I amazing MAC school. I mean, they're not amazing, but they're a good team. They're in the MAC. My overreaction would be, hey, look at Arizona. They won 61-48. I think they let 48 points be scored on them by New Mexico. New Mexico is in the same conference, the MAC, and they already lost to an FCS team, division lower than the FBS. Then they go to Arizona and are down by 3 at half. And then, McMillan has the game of his life, and Arizona end up beating them kind of bad by scoring 61 points. But overreacting, we had a much better game than Arizona did against a same caliber team. I think Wyoming's better than New Mexico. I think they play later in the season, so maybe we'll check back at that to see if my overreaction was correct. But it makes me really excited about this Arizona State team. If I want to come back down to reality, I got to look, hey, week 1, you had a big play within the 1st minute. It was the first pass of the game, pick 6. That's a momentum changer instantly. You're at home. Wyoming's coming in. They throw a pick 6. You're up 7-0. Then they drive down the field, get to the about 40-yard line. They throw another interception. Sam Levitt, a rookie QB. You come into this game, you're a little bit nervous as a rookie. You don't know you don't know how you're going to perform. Well, you're starting 7-0 You haven't got the ball and you're up 7 points. Your defense have gotten now 2 interceptions against this Wyoming team. There's not much you can mess up with. And guess what? We drive down the field and get a field goal, 7 plays. You drive down the field as a freshman QB, get a 7-play, 30-yard drive. You get a field goal, not necessarily an amazing first drive, but it's decent. Your defense holds them again. You drive down, end of the first quarter, you get a touchdown, 72 yards, 10 plays, an amazing drive. Heading up 17-0 at the end of the first quarter is something I have not seen an ASU football team do in about 10 years. All of my college football watching as a kid, I don't think I've seen ASU do this. Actually, the last time was probably when we played U of A and won 70-7. Since then, I haven't seen ASU do this. And doing this first week gives me a lot of hope. You go into that second quarter, you shut them out again with 2, and you get a touchdown and another field goal. Obviously, you would have liked to see all these touchdowns, but that's unrealistic with a freshman QB. You got to be happy that your points, you're going into halftime up 27-0. You're going to bring starters back in for the third quarter, and guess what? 3 touchdowns in the third quarter. We come out, we might look a little slow, and then by 3 minutes into the third quarter, we score a touchdown, we score another touchdown, and we score another. Then Jeff Sims gets into the game. They take Levitt out. Levitt ends the day at 14 for 22, 258, and 2 touchdowns. Scadaboo had 11 carries for 49 yards and a touchdown. And then receiving a running back, which is really cool to see that a screen went for as many yards as it did at right, whereas that 68-yard screen pass to Kyson Brown, he had 2 receptions for 73 yards and a touchdown. So overall, I'm really happy about this Sun Devils team. Try not to overreact too much. We're not ranked after this week. We're not, the end-all, be-all, but this is a great team. I'm excited for the future. One thing I can say, no matter what, not overreacting, is that Kenny Dillingham is a good coach. I really do believe that he is a good coach. I think that he'll lead the Sun Devils to at least a bowl game this year. That's my predictions. I think the Sun Devils will win at least 6 games this year. With that being said, let's head straight into our next game. The Sun Devils play a good SEC team here. Yes, they're at the bottom tier of the SEC, but the SEC is the best conference. Maybe tied with the Big Ten, but they're much better than the Big 12. And the Mississippi State Bulldogs is not a bad team at all. This is, I think, our first real test. If we have a good game like we did against Wyoming and we win by more than 2 scores, maybe even a touchdown or more, I'll be really happy. Like I said last week, my impact players were going to change, and as you're looking at the screen, they have. No more Jeff Sims. As we've seen, they didn't use him in the goal line. They just used him, late in the game as trash time, get him reps. We'll see if that changes later on in the season when we play a better team like the Mississippi State Bulldogs. We'll see if we need to use him more in the goal line. I don't see it happening, though. I think they're giving the keys to Sam Levitt, and he's going to control the offense all year no matter where we are. It does still look like we're going to use the Wildcat formation with Cam Scadabo. He had an amazing, game as well. And the reason I have, 4 running backs on this list is because all 4 running backs looked really good. It looked like that offensive line was moving the Wyoming defensive line, and all of these 4 running backs can put their head down, plow through somebody, and then we know Kyson Brown has the speed that I've not seen on an Arizona team before. He's only a sophomore. Hopefully we'll see him play for quite a while and doesn't hit the transfer portal. We head to the wide receivers. I only got 4 here because we didn't pass the ball that much. A lot of Sam Levitt's passing yards came to the one long touchdown screen to Kyson Brown. The biggest guy I think we saw out there was Jordan Tyson and Jake Smith. Both of those wide receivers, I think, caught more than 1 ball, which is not being said for Stovall and Guillory, who only caught 1 ball. I put them just because they caught a ball and they got some yards. Other than that, we went to our tight end, Mateer, pretty often. I think he had a couple receptions as well. I think hopefully we'll see more of the passing game here in this next game. We saw a lot of running, and if that's the team that ASU is going to be, I like some smash mouth football. So if that O-line's producing and we see all 4 of these running backs again, I will not be, disappointed that we're not seeing our wide receivers, because if we don't need to rely on a pass game, doesn't matter to me. We have a freshman QB. I don't necessarily want to have to rely on a passing game. So knowing that our running backs did as good as they did as week 1 is a big positive for the offense in the future. But was it the offense that won the game? No, it was the defense. And I know we got Clayton Smith leading off, but I want to jump straight to Cyrus Fiseu. Could have said his name wrong there. I do apologize. Interception on the second or third play of the game, pick 6. Amazing way to start the season for a Sun Devils defense that normally struggles. I was so glad to see that. You have 2 D linemen here, Clayton Smith and Elijah O'Neal, who had sacks in the game against Wyoming. I'm going to overreact a little bit here, and that's why they're on there. I'm not sure if some of those sacks were in garbage time, but I do know that they did have a sack and quite a bit of tackles. So it looks like those are impact players for this week on the D-line. Heading to the linebacker core, I don't think these 3 are going to change. Maybe Keyshawn Elliott, but no, actually Keyshawn Elliott, I'm pretty sure, led us in tackles, so I don't know if that's going to change at all. Thunderbird, you saw get a sack in the game as well. Like I just said, Fiasu got an interception. Keyshawn Elliott had, I think, one of the most tackles on our team. And then you head to the DBs that I have this week, Miles Rouser, Keith Abney, and Shamari Simmons. I don't know of all 3 of them, but I knew at least maybe I think 2 out of 3 had picks. And I think the other one that didn't have a pick had a bunch of tackles. So I think in the defensive core, those are the people we really got to look at for our impact players. Hopefully Keith Abney stays at the lockdown corner for the year. He did really well in the first game against Wyoming. Like I said, these are my impact players leading into week 2, but by week 3, these players could change because Wyoming wasn't the best of teams. They didn't, and even though I think they're a better team than they showed on Saturday, I feel like Mississippi State, no matter if they have a bad game or a good game, will be a good test. We're on ESPN at 7:30 at night. I cannot wait for this game. We're currently 5-point favorites. We were 6.5 earlier after the end of the Wyoming game. I think they stopped overreacting, but going in as a favorite against an SEC team is so exciting as an Arizona State fan. I cannot wait for this game. I hopefully will be there this week. I wasn't last week, but I'm really hoping to be there. If not, you better believe that I will have that game on the projector, studying every move that Arizona State team does, because I am so excited for this season if they continue like they did in the Wyoming game. Ending that stuff with the Arizona State team, I'm very happy with them. I don't want to overact too much. Let's stop it there and let's go straight to the Arizona Cardinals. What are my expectations for this Cardinals team? 5 wins? Truly, what should it be? Are they going to be the next Houston Texans of last year? Or are they going to be what everybody thinks they are and the worst team in the NFL? Maybe around that New England Patriots. Yes, I'm going to throw the New England Patriots under the bus as well. Are they going to be as bad as them? Or are they going to be the Houston Texans of last year? That's our ceiling, I think, is the Houston Texans. And then I think our floor is the New England Patriots, and because I don't think anybody has any hope for that team, and not many people have hope for this Cardinals team. Saying that, unlike a lot of people, I am very high on Kyler Murray. I think he's a very fantastic athlete. Does that transfer to football? 5'10", that's where people don't think it transfers to football. He's 5'10", much smaller than most of his O-line. But that kid is such an athlete, scrambles out of the pocket. You never know where he's going to be on the field. And yes, that might be hard on an O-line, but that's also hard on the defense when you don't know when he's going to scramble, when he's going to stay in the pocket, and when he's just going to tuck his head and run. Kyler Murray is going to be an amazing fantasy QB only if, and this is the big asterisk that everybody, as an Arizona Cardinals fan going into this game, can Kyler Murray stay healthy? We'll see. Other than that, I'm looking at our 2 running backs. James Conner was the only solid piece that we could rely on every week last year. So why, if he's so reliable, do I put Trey Benson? Because I think Trey Benson is the most underrated draft pick of last year. He was an amazing running back at Florida State, and I think he's going to have a huge year next year. I think James Conner's going to have a huge year this year. Towards the end of the season, I think you're going to see a lot more of Trey Benson. And as soon as James Conner's going to need a contract, they're not going to give it to him because Trey Benson's going to be the new guy in Arizona. I could see Trey Benson being a top 5 running back within the next 3 years. I have huge, huge hopes for the way that Trey Benson runs. I think he's a dog. I think he has incredible vision, and the guy's the all-around running back, in my opinion. And then you go into the Cardinals receiving core. You look at Marvin Harrison, our first-round draft pick. I really don't think he's going to disappoint. I mean, injuries could happen, but I don't think he's even in conversation for a bust territory. I think he's going to be what we either think he is, which is going to be an amazing talent. I think he could be a top 5 wide receiver in the next 5 years. If not, I don't think his floor is any lower than just a tier 2 or 3 receiver. I think no matter what he does in his career, he'll at least be starting. I don't think we'll see him go any lower than that, but I have high hopes for him this year. I hope him and Kyler have a good connection. Unfortunately, I can't get a jersey for him. Why you see I'm wearing this Cincinnati Bengals jersey, not because I'm a Cincinnati Bengals fan, but because I love Jamar Chase. I loved that 2019 LSU football team, so that's why I got the Jamar Chase jersey on. Hopefully when you can get a Marvin Harrison Jr. jersey, I will. Hopefully he'll have a big year. Heading into the second of the big 3, in my opinion, of the receiving game is Michael Wilson. Very, very underrated. Great receiver. I think with all the attention going to Marvin Harrison, he might be our leading targeted receiver, but leading receiver with the most yards, because I think the most targets are going to end up going to Trey Bride. So a scrambling QB, I think, always ends up passing to their tight end. I feel like a safety valve is someone that's a little shorter and someone that's a scrambler like Kyler Murray needs. He's so young. He's so good already. Trey McBride, I'm telling you, these 3 in Marvin Harrison, Michael Wilson, and Trey McBride are so underrated. I think that could be a top 10 trio when it comes to the passing game in the NFL. And I talked about how I think Kyler Murray's underrated. I'm actually really excited for this passing game. And we already know how consistent the running game will be with James Conner. And I think Trey Benson just made that even better. I also threw Greg Dortch in here just because he's a speedster and at any moment he can make a big play. So I got to throw him in here to that offense that he could just be electric at any moment, returning punts, returning kicks, or just any jet sweeps like we would see in college football 25. I know everybody runs that play, but realistically, Greg Dortch will run type of plays like that, and with his speed, you never know what to expect. That guy could have 20 fantasy points this week just because he has 2 80-yard touchdowns. You don't know what you're going to get from him, so I had to throw him in here. And now we get to the biggest question mark of the Arizona Cardinals team. I think our offense will be, honestly, a top 10 offense in the league this year, but will we be a playoff team? That depends on our defense. So many question marks here with Zaven Collins and Dennis Gardeck. Are they good enough pass rushers? Will they get to the quarterback? Because without sacks in the NFL this year, you're not going to do very good. You're not going to be a good team if you can't get sacks. We haven't seen Zaven Collins or Dennis Gardeck be a good enough outside linebacker to get a bunch of sacks. Are they going to step up? Are they going to rush the QB? If they are, I think this defense will be really good. Honestly, the reason I started with these two is because it starts with these two, or the defenses start by, are you going to get sacks? If not, maybe not you're not going to be a top 15 defense. Are you going to get sacks? All right, you're going to be a top 15 defense. So big pressure on Zaven Collins and Dennis Gardeck this year. Then we go into our middle linebackers with Kaiser White. We saw him last year. And then we get the new addition of Mack Wilson Sr. Hopefully these two will be very well in field managing in the middle linebacker position. I have high hopes for those two this year. Hopefully they can control that defense and keep us playing as a unit. Then we head to the DBs, and we got quite a bit of them this year, but a lot of question marks. The Cardinals' pass defense has been terrible for the last 5 years, pretty much ever since Patrick Peterson left from his prime. So heading into this year, I actually have big hopes. I love Max Melton. He was a huge draft pick if you were to look at the one game Marvin Harrison had a bad game, it's when they played Rutgers. Who was the Rutgers cornerback who guarded Marvin Harrison? Yes, Max Melton. I have really big hopes for him. I just think as a rookie, it's going to be either really big lockdown plays or he's going to be hit over the top and get burnt. We'll see. Sean Murphy Bunting, I think, was an amazing add this offseason. I think he could do very well. Hopefully filling a hole that we've just seen with, the defenses in the past. Cardinals defenses, we've seen a hole at corner. Hopefully Sean Murphy Bunting just ends up being a nice number one corner this year. I think when we go to slot corner, I think that's where you throw in the rookie here. Taylor Demerson maybe plays in that slot situation. Maybe it's Jalen Thompson. I think you see all three of these. You're obviously going to see Budda Baker on the field. Then when it comes to Jalen Thompson and Taylor Demerson, I think you see both of them on the field. I think you see one back at safety, and I think you see one at slot corner. I have high hopes. I think all of these players have upside. Obviously, Budda Baker, we know he's amazing. But when it comes to Max Melton, Taylor Demerson, and Jalen Thompson, they're all young, on the younger side of it. They all have upside. Murphy Bunting's a little bit older, but we know he can be good. So let's see if he has an upside this year. After really going through that roster, let's look at who we're playing. We're playing the Bills. A lot of people just hear the Bills, think of Josh Allen, think of an amazing team. They are 7 points favorites, and I'm telling you a lock of this week, I think we cover the 7 points. I don't know if we win, but I think we cover 7. They are not that good on offense. Their number one receiver is Keon Coleman, a rookie. They lost Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis. They kept James Cook at running back, but I think he's a little overrated. I don't think he's that great of a running back. I think this 47, I think it's actually with the Arizona offense, maybe it's not under 47.5. I really do like the Cardinals winning here. They're my upset of the week. Obviously, I'm going to be a little bit biased as a Cardinals fan, but unbiasedly, I do think we cover 7 points. We might even push it. If we lose, it could be to a field goal or to a touchdown, but I don't think they're covering a full 7 points. So I would go Arizona to cover the 7. Maybe I think on ESPN Bet they have a 6.5 here. I think that's a perfect line because I think that's really where it's going to come down to is I think Arizona might win by 1-2 or, the Bills win by, I think it's going to be a really close game is where I'm getting at. I like the Cardinals a lot. I like our offense. I think we outscore a Bills offense who is very depleted after last year. But don't get me wrong, I'm very high on the Cardinals, but I can't forget Josh Allen's back there on the Bills team, right? They might not have Gabe Davis. They might not have Stephon Diggs. But with Keon Coleman coming out of Florida State, maybe they could be amazing. I don't think so personally. I don't think the Bills are going to be very good on offense this year. But Josh Allen's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. I can't look past that too much. I got to admit that he's an amazing quarterback and that they could easily blow the Cardinals out in week 1. But my final prediction for the game is that the Cardinals, I know what, screw it. Cardinals upset here in week 1. I think it's going to be the biggest upset of week 1. I'm taking the Cardinals. Then you head to the first game of week 2 before we continue with this week 1. You got the Bills here again. If the Cardinals, week 2, they got Miami here. The Bills in Miami. If the Cardinals were to beat the Bills, I think this matchup predictor goes heavily into Miami's favor, right? I think if the Cardinals upset the Bills, I don't think this is a game at all. I think the Bills will be defeated. And heading into Miami, I think Miami will put up a lot of points on them. Now, if the Bills do what the experts say and, beat the Cardinals by a touchdown or more, I think this game will be as close as, in even, matchup that they got it here. But since I'm predicting the Cardinals upset, I'm going to say that this game's not going to be even close. Obviously, I might look stupid by the time next week comes right before this podcast, and the Bills might have beat the Cardinals by a lot and then play the Miami Dolphins really well. I'm going to go pretty quickly over this Thursday night football game because we haven't seen the Bills or Dolphins play. Unfortunately, this game does happen before the podcast next week, so I do have to cover it this week. But first game of week 2 that I have to cover, I'm going to go Miami wins, and I think it's going to be a pretty handily win, and I think you'll be able to take the over 50.5 points here. I think Miami scores a lot against that Buffalo Bills team, but I just don't think with that depleted offense that the Buffalo Bills, with only Keon Coleman, James Cook, and Josh Allen, can keep up with the Miami Dolphins. Give me Miami Dolphins by more than a touchdown. Then we head here to the 10 o'clock games in the NFL. Oh my God, you can't imagine how anxious I am to hear my favorite phrase in all of NFL football, and that's Scott Hanson in the NFL Red Zone when he goes 7 hours of commercial-free football starts now, and these are the games it starts with. Obviously, we already talked about the Cardinals game. I'm going with the Cardinals upset. We look at this Pittsburgh Steelers and Atlanta Falcons game. Atlanta went all out this offseason. They got rid of Arthur Smith, and personally, I think that means on the offensive side, we'll see people like Drake London, Kyle Pitts, and Bijan actually be used. They have a good quarterback now in Kirk Cousins coming over. Yes, he's coming off an injury, but with those weapons, I think their offense is very good. And they added Matthew Judon. They added Justin Simmons. They already had Jesse Bates. The defense is going to be really good. And then all the Pittsburgh Steelers are question marks. They got rid of Matt Canada finally, so maybe that offense will be better. But we don't know we know Russell Wilson starting. Will he even be starting by the end of the year? Or will it be Justin Fields? I have no clue. To be honest with you, there's too many question marks with the Steelers to take them this week. So my pick would be to go with the Atlanta Falcons at home week 1. And then we go to the Tennessee Titans and Chicago Bears. Honestly, we're going to start here with the Titans. They're a big question mark as well. I have no idea what to think of this team. I haven't done too much research on them. I don't think their defense has changed too much. And they had a pretty average defense. On offense, they added Calvin Ridley, but they lost Derrick Henry. Tajay Spears is not a bad running back behind Derrick Henry. So, I mean, that offense still might be good. But they are in Chicago playing the Chicago Bears. And if you heard me last week, I was really big on Caleb Williams. And with his first game against being at home against Tennessee, who's not a top 15 team, I think they come out here with a huge win. That team has so many pieces. We talked about it last week. The three-headed monster in Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, and Rome Odunze is insane. You know, Caleb Williams couldn't be in a better position. I'm taking Chicago at home here. And we might see a continuation here because I'm taking Cincy at home as well. If Jamar Chase is practicing, hopefully we'll see if he's practicing. Hopefully he plays in week 1. If Jamar Chase plays in week 1, I think they win. Even if he doesn't, I still think they win because I don't have any hope for this Patriots team at all. Being in Cincinnati, I think the Bengals get an easy win here. Then we got Houston Texans and the Colts. Out of all these 10 a.m. games, I think this will be the best 10 a.m. game. And the reason I think this will be the best 10 a.m. game is because we saw this matchup in the playoffs. We saw this matchup in the playoffs, I'm pretty sure. I think it was the first week, or it might have been the last week, and whoever wins gets into the playoffs. I forgot which one it is. I think it was the last week of the season. Whoever wins gets into the playoffs, and it was an electric game. It's in Indianapolis. That might play a factor, but I love this Texans team. They got better adding Stephon Diggs. CJ Stroud's just going to be better in his second year. They added Joe Mixon. I think this team is amazing. I think it's a lot less close than it was last year. I think it's a pretty high-scoring game because don't forget the Colts still have Jonathan Taylor. That O-line is amazing, so I think they run the ball pretty well. But I think the Texans outscore them in an absolute shootout in a game in Indianapolis, where I think Houston Texans, by the end of the game, pull away by at least a touchdown. And then we head to Miami, where we got Miami and Jacksonville. A lot of people lost the hype on the Miami Dolphins. I haven't. I think they're a great team. I think the Tua Tyreek connection just comes back. Don't forget they also have pieces like Jalen Waddle, Devon Achane, and he's going to escape my mind, Raheem Mostert as well. I think that's an amazing offense. I think there's a lot of question marks on that defense, but I think Miami beats a Jacksonville Jaguar team. That Jacksonville Jaguars do still have Trevor Lawrence. They have ETN at the running back position, but they did lose a big wide receiver in Calvin Ridley over the offseason. I think that's enough for them to maybe lose a close one in Miami, but I am going to go Miami at home. The Panthers and the New Orleans Saints. I think this could be a really good game as well. The Panthers, I don't think they're going to be much better. They added quite a bit of pieces over the offseason. I know they added a running back. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. Bryce Young in his second year. Let's see how he does under a new coach, a new system. Just as a safety pick, I'm going to take New Orleans at home here. They still have Kamara returning. Derek Carr's a veteran. Let's see if he can pick it up compared to last year. I'm going to have to go with the Saints here in week 1 at home. And then rounding off the 10 o'clock games, we got the Vikings at the New York Giants. This is the worst game of week 1. And the reason I'm saying that is because the Giants just lost Saquon Barkley. I think they're going to suck this year. And then the Vikings could be okay, but they lost J.J. McCarthy. Unfortunately for the Giants, I think they're so bad this year that I'm not going to pick them in any games. I'm going to go the Minnesota Vikings, even without J.J. McCarthy. Pretty sure Justin Jefferson's healthy. I think Sam Darnold to Justin Jefferson's going to be enough. And I think a pretty low-scoring game here. This is going to be just an absolute crap show. I don't know who's going to do good. This is really a shot in the dark, but I'm going to go the Vikings over the New York Giants, rounding off the 10 o'clock games. Heading into the 1 o'clock games, we got another 4, ending off that 7 hours of commercial-free football on NFL Red Zone. Yes, favorite program on Sundays. But we start off at 105. We got the Raiders and Chargers. I think this is a really big game. And the reason I think this is a big game is it shows, is Harbaugh the real deal? Can he come into the NFL and do the same thing at Michigan? These two teams I don't think are going to make the playoffs. I don't see big hopes for the Raiders. I don't see big hopes for the Chargers. But I will really like to see if Smash Mouth football comes to LA. Don't forget Herbert's still a good QB. I honestly don't remember what their pieces are other than Herbert, and then their running backs are J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards, 2 former Ravens. I think they're going to run the ball a lot behind pieces like Joe Alt and Slater. On that O-line, I think that O-line is going to be really good, and I think they're going to run the ball a lot. The Raiders have Brock Bowers, the tight end that they just drafted, which was kind of surprising considering they had Michael Mayer. I don't really know too much about these two teams, to be honest with you. I really think that this goes to the Chargers in just a dominant smash mouth football game. They still got a decent defense in Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack. So I'm going to go the Chargers in a very low-scoring smash mouth football way. And then heading into that second 105 game, we got the Broncos and the Seahawks. I think this is going to surprise a lot of people, and I think this is going to be a shootout. I think the Broncos' offense is going to be a lot better than people think with Bo Nix. Sean Payton's their coach. He's an amazing offensive coach, and I think this game's going to be a very high-scoring game. Don't forget Seattle's pieces. When Geno Smith plays well, he's got the supporting cast around him with DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett at the receiver position. Also, Jackson Smith Najigba, he's an amazing receiver as well. That's a 3-headed monster that Seattle's got to look forward to. And then they also have Kenneth Walker at the running back position. I think he could be have a very big year this year. In Seattle, it's a hard place to play, so I'm going to go Seattle at home. Week 1, teams are unknown, so you're going to see me going with a lot of home teams, just like the Chargers, just now as the Seahawks, just because I feel like when there's a bunch of unknowns, that home crowd is going to help you a lot. And I think this will be a high-scoring game, but I think the Seattle offense just edges out that Denver Broncos offense. And then we head into the next game where you got the Dallas Cowboys and Cleveland Browns. I don't have high hopes for Deshaun Watson. No Nick Chubb. Give me the best team in the regular season. Yes, I said it. The best team in the regular season. When it comes to the playoffs, not even close to the best team, but the best team in the regular season. This offense is going to be pretty good with Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, and then at tight end you got Jake Ferguson. Running back, you got Zeke, but will he lose his job to their backup? Most likely by the end of the year. I still think their offense is going to be electric with CD. I think CD's an amazing receiver, and he just got paid. Dak Prescott this might be his last year as a Cowboy, but we'll see. I think they will continue still to be the best team in the regular season. I'm going to go with the Cowboys and a big win in Cleveland. And then rounding out the 1 o'clock games, we got the Commanders in Tampa. I think this might be a really good game, and the reason is these teams might not be playoff teams, but these teams have two electric quarterbacks. Baker Mayfield hasn't been a bona fide number one quarterback like we thought he could have been coming out of Oklahoma, but he always has this electric personality. That wide receiver core is still good in Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. They still have Rachaad White at running back, Baker Mayfield at quarterback. They signed Tristan Wirfs on that O-line. I think that offense is going to be pretty good throughout the season. And then you look at Washington. They just got Jaden Daniels out of the draft, Heisman winner at LSU. Their running back room consists of Brian Robinson Jr. and Austin Eckler. Eckler's a little washed, getting a little old, but I think he could have a big year this year. Brian Robinson, I think, will still do as decent as he did last year. I'm not quite familiar with that wide receiver core, but I think that offense will be pretty good this year. I think this is a toss-up, to be honest with you. If I had to go with team, I'm really high on Jaden Daniels, so I'm going to go the Commanders rounding out the 1 o'clock games. Then we head to the last three games we're going to talk about this week in the NFL, and those are our Week 2 primetime games. Starting with Friday night's game in Brazil, we have an amazing game here. We got the Green Bay Packers and the Philadelphia Eagles. This will be an amazing game. You got the returning Packers offense with Jordan Love. You got Jaden Reed. You got Romeo Dobbs, not sure how you say his name. There's another wide receiver there, Christian Watson, I'm pretty sure. I'm not sure what that running back room looks like. I think they have Josh Jacobs, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong there, but I think they have Josh Jacobs now. I think that offense did really good last year, and I think it could do really good this year again. I think the Eagles now, they're a question mark team this year. Without Jason Kelce at center, how's that O-line group going to do? They still have some amazing pieces up there. I don't think they're going to slack off that much. But I think the big news here is that Saquon Barkley is now a Philadelphia Eagle behind a good O-line still. Their receivers are still pretty good with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. At tight end, they still have Dallas Goedert. I think this will still be a great team. Hurts, I think, hopefully learns from his mistakes of the back half of last year. And I think they go into Brazil and get a big win against the Packers. I think the running game is the reason why. Saquon's an amazing running back. Don't forget this. Saquon, let me repeat, is an amazing running back. He did good in a shitty New York Giants team. Now he's behind a very good Eagles O-line. Yes, missing Jason Kelce, but I still think will be amazing. I'm going with the Eagles because of the running game, opening up the play action. I think Hurts learns from last year. I think he does very well this year. Then you head into Sunday Night Football. You got the Rams at the Lions, two very good offenses. But bottom line, the Lions are going to be a better team than the Rams. Don't get me wrong, the Rams have a lot of good offensive pieces. They just drafted Blake Corum to match up with Kyren Williams. I think that's going to be a great dual running back system on the Rams. I think they'll use both of them quite a bit. And then that wide receiver room still has Cooper Kupp and Puka. That offense isn't going to struggle that much this year. I think they will struggle week one, though, because the Lions are great in week one. We saw it last year when they beat the Chiefs on Thursday Night Football, first game of the season last year. They just went into Arrowhead and beat them. And for that, I think the Detroit Lions will win Sunday Night Football. Dan Campbell is an amazing head coach. That team's pretty much returning completely. Jared Goff at quarterback. You got Amon-Ra as their number one receiver. I'm blanking on some of their guys right now. I'm pretty sure Jahmyr Gibbs is their running back, if I'm not mistaken. I'm blanking a little bit. I apologize, but that team's going to be improved from last year. Just I'm pretty sure almost all returning. I think that defense is completely returning. They're just going to be improved from a team that should have beat the Niners last year and should have made it to the Super Bowl. I think they're going to be very good, and they're going to win at home Sunday Night Football on NBC and Peacock. Then you head to Monday Night Football. This game I've been going back and forth. In the beginning of this podcast, we had the big news section where we talked about the Niners now being fully back. Yes, Ricky Pearsall got shot, so we won't see him in week 1. But Brandon Ayuk and Trent Williams are signed. This Niners team on paper is probably the best team in the NFL. The only questions I gotta know is, will the Niners struggle week 1? And the reason I'm wondering, will they struggle week 1? Because normally the losers of the Super Bowl do struggle week 1. I'm not 100% sure if Greenlaw is healthy going into this game. And then on the New York side, you've got Aaron Rodgers. He snapped his Achilles last year in the 4th play of the year. I think it was 3rd or 4th play, something like that. But don't forget that team's still really, really talented. At running back, you got Breece Hall. At receiver, you got Garrett Wilson. On the defense, you have players like Quentin. Why can't I think of his last name right now? Quentin something on. He's a D lineman. I apologize for forgetting his last name. And then you got Sauce Gardner there as well. That team's really good. They have a lot of team chemistry, it looks like. If Aaron Rodgers plays like MVP Rodgers and stays healthy, I think this game is really close. But just because of on paper, the Niners team being so good, I'm going to have to take the Niners at home Monday Night Football. Lock it in, 49ers. Last pick of the week 1 of the NFL season. Let's head straight to college football. Alrighty, starting with college football here, we got our week 1 recap. Unfortunately, I talked about this last week. Florida State, I said you had a chance still to make the playoffs. All bets are off. You guys suck. Absolutely suck. You guys are the worst team in the ACC at the moment. DJ Ugalele, however you say his name, he's terrible. You just lost to Boston College. At home, you lost to Boston College. Embarrassing. Not even going to spend any more time on that game. You got embarrassed. You should be embarrassed to be a Florida State fan. Next, you got the Penn State and West Virginia game. Unfortunately, I look like a doof because Pat McAfee sold me on the West Virginia team. But I did mention that if it wasn't for him, I probably would have gone Penn State by a blowout. And guess what happened? They scored 20 points in that second quarter. Absolutely looked dominant, just bigger, stronger than that West Virginia team. Had a 2.5-hour delay because of weather. Came out after that long halftime, scored 2 touchdowns, 1 in the 3rd, 1 in the 4th. Just looked dominant. Went to Morgantown and absolutely dominated the West Virginia Mountaineers. Then you go to an absolute domination as well. Miami showed that the U might be back this year. I'm telling you, the U might be back, and that's because they put 41 points on Florida in the Swamp. Unheard of. Absolutely, maybe not recently, but you would have asked me in the Tim Tebow days, would you see 41 be put on a Florida team in the Swamp? No. Cam Ward threw for 385 yards, 3 touchdowns, and looked absolutely with the moxie of anybody I've ever seen before. Looks comfortable, has this swagger about him. Absolutely amazing. Cam Ward, in my opinion, is the front runner for the Heisman after that week 1 performance. The other one that I might think is up there, and I don't have him anywhere on here, so I got to mention him real quick. Travis Hunter, an amazing game. He might be up there in the Heisman already talk, but after week 1, I think the leader's got to be Cam Ward. Absolutely impressed me. Just completely went to the Swamp and said, this is my yard, and put 41 points on that Florida defense. Absolutely amazing performance by the Miami team there. heading into Georgia Clemson. I just feel like a genius with this game. Absolute genius. I said this game will be close going into the half. I wouldn't be surprised if Clemson was up 3-0. They weren't up 3-0. Georgia was only up 6-0. A very close game. Could have went anyway. And then what did I say? Coming out of halftime, Georgia Bulldogs were going to dominate. And guess what they did? They dominated. They figured out what they couldn't do in the first half. I thought they were going to be a team that controls the line of scrimmage, and they didn't. But they were able to adjust, go into the second half and score 14 in each quarter while holding Clemson to only a field goal. Absolutely incredible. If you're a Clemson fan, you got to blame Dabo Swinney for not going into the portal. Not looking like it's going to work out for you guys. Honestly, Georgia just looked dominant. Kind of just backing up everything everybody's been saying before the season of when you look at the college football standings, there's Georgia, and then what other team can be on Georgia's level. That's the way I look at the top 25, which we'll get into in a second. It's Georgia, and then it's who else can maybe be on Georgia's level. Then we head into my game of the week, which was LSU and USC, and that game did not disappoint. Mr. Moss over here throwing for 378 yards, leading to the USC coming up with a great fourth quarter, beating LSU 14-3 in the fourth quarter, ending up winning the game 27-20. What a performance by both teams, but really by USC's offense. Their running back 68 yards, 2 touchdowns, and Mr. Moss throwing for 378 yards. What an offensive performance by USC, especially late. They did very well in Las Vegas. What a win for the USC Trojans. Unfortunately, I was wrong in my predictions. I went LSU because of their experience in these Monday night games. Did not look good for them. Or Sunday night games, my apologies. But it did not look good for them. And then you head to the game of the week, the college football game of the week, or college game day game of the week. And I predicted this completely wrong. I listened to Nick Saban say, you don't know what it's like to play on the road until you play in College Station on the road. That team was rowdy. They finally got their song back at the beginning of the game, and they were excited. They were rowdy all day. But Notre Dame came in there and was just a more physical team from start to finish. Marcus Freeman's got that team rolling, and Notre Dame could be definitely the 5th best team. And the only reason they're the 5th best team is that's the best they can be because they're not in a conference. But I easily see them being in the top 5 at the end of the year. Marcus Freeman doesn't have the hardest schedule in the world. I think he can have this team rolling. He's got a couple of tests later on in the season, but I like this team a lot. I think they're going to be very good this year. And I think going into College Station and beating the Aggies 23-13, holding them to basically 6 points until the end of the game, it was very impressive. I mean, you look, Notre Dame, 158 passing yards. Doesn't sound like much, but since it's showing up on the screen, you know it was more than the Aggies had. 91 yards is pretty impressive by running back, led the whole game in rushing yards. 62 receiving yards, led the whole game. Notre Dame dominated. Aggies looked pitiful at home. You know, they get all these 5-star recruits for nothing, apparently. Still can't perform. Hopefully they pick it up towards the end of the season. We'll see. They got some hard opponents, including Texas, coming up later. They might have a tough time this year. Other than that, that ends it for week 1. I think, let's see, we go back. Boston College, Florida State, I got wrong. I went Florida State. Penn State, I think I did take them to win, but I think I didn't take them to cover. They covered, so I'm going to go half right, half wrong. I went Florida to win in the swamp, so I was wrong there. Miami destroyed them. Georgia, I absolutely predicted exactly what was going to happen in that game, so I'm patting myself on the back with that one. I did get the USC-LSU game wrong, and I did get Notre Dame, Texas A&M wrong. If we go back, that's 1 correct, maybe 2 out of 6 correct. Terrible week 1 predictions for me. But again, it was week 1. There's not much to predict off of. Nick Saban said it pretty well on College Game Day. You don't know what this team is going into week 1. It's hard to predict week 1. So I'm not going to be too hard on myself, but I did go, I think, 2 for 6 for week 1. Then we look at the top 25 here. I'm not going to go through every team, but I will show you the top 10 real quick, and then you can see on the right side of your screen the rest, the 11 through 25. But you're leading in, the number one team, undoubtedly Georgia. Ohio State comes in at 2, but did look a little slow against Akron to start with, but then did look very well. Texas played amazing against Colorado State. So did Alabama have an amazing game. Notre Dame had an amazing game in College Station. Old Miss, Jackson Dart could be in that Heisman conversation. Oregon bumped down just because they had a tough game against Idaho, but I think they'll still be a great team. You had Penn State going to Morgantown and dominate, so they're at number 8. Missouri, I'm not quite sure what they did, but they did move up into the top 10 at number 9. And then Michigan didn't look amazing, but they're going to sneak in at number 10. Now we head on to week number 2 of college football. Looking at this week, it's not as good as week 1, but you still have some amazing games here. You got number 23 Georgia Tech heading into the Syracuse game on the road. The reason I put that as my first game here is because I want to see if Georgia Tech's a real team. Syracuse is no pushover, so I would really like to see how this game goes. If Georgia Tech wins this game handily, then maybe they will be a good team heading into this year. I got to see what happens, though. We'll head into my predictions at the very end. I think this will be a very good game, though. I think this could go back and forth. I just want to really see if Georgia Tech is the team that we think they are. Kansas, a lot of people have high hopes for Jalen Daniels this year. Illinois is another good team. They have to travel to Illinois, so we'll see how that game goes in Illinois. I think it will be another good kind of, hey, is Kansas what we think they are? Those first 2 games, why I put those there is it's big test for these top 25 teams of can they beat an unranked team and can they look good? And these unranked teams aren't FCS schools. They're good FBS schools at good conferences. Let's see how they perform. And then we got really where you get into the games of the week here, the top 4 here. You got Colorado, Nebraska, both unranked currently, but both teams that could be ranked by the end of the year. Colorado's always going to be overhyped, but they do have a very good offense. And then Nebraska all around is amazing. They got a great freshman QB in Dylan Raiola. He looks like the next Patty Mahomes, little cuzzo, if you've seen the tweet from Patty. But, absolutely amazing team. We saw, slow against UTEP, but then dominated towards the end. And then you got this another rivalry game here in state. You got Iowa State versus Iowa. This game could be very close or it could be a blowout. Iowa's got a great defense, we know this, but they also look like to have a good offense. So we'll see. Then we go into my game of the week here, Tennessee at NC State. If you know me very well, you know my top 2 college football teams are Arizona State and then Tennessee. I do also kind of like LSU and Texas because of other reasons, but my real 2 favorite teams are Arizona State and Tennessee. So this right here is Tennessee's first test of the year, going on the road against the North Carolina State Wolfpack. Top 25 matchup, one of only 2 this week. Can they prove that they're the Tennessee of new and not the Tennessee of old? Will Nico Amalieva, I don't know how to say his name completely, but can that freshman QB be what I think he's going to be this year? Can they go into a top 25 team's house and have a good win? We'll see. And then we got the college football game of the week. You got the Texas Longhorns head into the big house. The defending national champions, not the same team, but still a good team. And then you got the Quinn Ewers-led Longhorns, and then you still got their backup. Yes, you know who he is, Arch Manning. That team's loaded with a bunch of talent. Isaiah Bond, great wide receiver on Texas. CJ Baxter, great running back. Now that I've introduced all these games, let's go into my predictions to end out the podcast here. In this Georgia Tech-Syracuse game, I think we're going to see Georgia Tech prove that they're a team this year. I'm going to go Georgia Tech beating the Syracuse Orange away, but I think they're going to have a good game, and I think they're going to end up showing that they are a really good team this year, beating the Syracuse Orange at home. I'm going with the away team here, Georgia Tech. Then kind of following the same pattern here, I got Kansas showing that they're a good team. Jalen Daniels is going to have a really, really good game. Yes, I know it kind of sounds like Jaden, but Jalen Daniels, their quarterback for Kansas, is going to have a really good game. I think they'll go on the road and beat the Illinois Fighting Illini. And then you got right here this Nebraska-Colorado game. So far, I've taken the favorites of each game, and I'm going to continue to do it. I'm going to go Nebraska. Colorado's got an electric offense, but I think Nebraska is just a more well-rounded team. You know, I really believe at home Nebraska is going to have a big win and big-time performance. Dylan Raiola, his first big test. Let's see how he does it. Travis Hunter, I just said he might be a Heisman favorite. He's going to have a really good game, but I think that defense is going to let him down. We saw them playing, yes, the best team in the FCS, but still they struggled against an FCS team in North Dakota State. But they ended up picking up a win. But having to go on the road here in a rivalry game, give me Nebraska. Then we go into that Iowa State and Iowa Hawkeyes game. I think it's going to be a really good game to start with. But what I saw is that Iowa now has an offense. And if Iowa has an offense, that is a scary team. Very scary because that Iowa defense has always been good. So give me the Iowa Hawkeyes in a prove-it game that we have an offense. I think they beat Iowa State by 2 or more touchdowns. Give me the Iowa Hawkeyes at home. And then for my game of the week, we got the Tennessee Volunteers heading to the N State Wolfpack. I'm going to be a little biased here. On the road, give me the Tennessee Volunteers. I think we prove that we're going to be a good team this year. I think Nico has an amazing game. He had an amazing game. Yes, it was against a bad Charleston team, but they won 69-3. I love Tennessee this year. I think they're going to be really good. They got the best player in college football in James Pierce Jr. on the defense. Give me them to have a big game against the NC State Wolfpack. Give me Tennessee on the road. And then we head into college game of the week. You know, all week long, I've been on Texas. I think they're the better team. But nobody, absolutely nobody, is high on this Michigan Wolverines team. At home, can the big house be enough to beat Texas? Wow, I think this is going to be an amazing game. Donovan Edwards is still that guy. But I've been trying to convince myself because I think I've gone every single favorite. Really been trying to convince myself to go Michigan. I can't do it. Like I said, Texas is one of my favorite teams. I think Quinn Ewers is a great quarterback. I think Texas will win or be in the SEC championship game this year. Maybe not win because, like I said, Georgia's up here. Everybody else is down here. Give me Texas Longhorns to go into the big house, beat the Michigan Wolverines, the defending national champions. I might look stupid because I think I went all favorites, but that's my weekly picks. Ending it off with the Texas Longhorns. Horns up. Let's go into another great week of football. Like I said, this week of football, you got a Thursday night football game. You got high school football on Friday, full college slate on Saturday, full NFL slate on Sunday, and then you got Monday night football. Great week for football. Thank you for watching First Report Sports, and go love somebody today. Thank you.
Delta Dawn, what's that flower you